Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrea Wilson. I am a recruiting operations specialist with K12, and I want to welcome you all to our afternoon session of our OHVA meet and greet, where we'll be talking to some representatives from our middle school, high school, special education, and we'll also talk about CTE. If you haven't already, if you just joined the room, make sure you include your name, where you're from, what you would hope to get out of this session today in our chat box. We have a lot of information that we'll be covering today. And at the end, we hope to answer some questions that you all have. So we'll just get started. Before we talk about OHVA and their school as a whole, we will also, get you grounded as to who K12 is. So I just want you to see some of our representatives. We have Lauren, Jonna, Andrea or Andrea. My name's Andrea as well. Laura, Jennifer, Kyle. Welcome all of you all to these are representatives from OHVA. And before you hear from them, I will have Keisha, who is my manager, to just get us grounded with who K12 is.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are so excited to have you guys here. For those of you who are our boomerangs that came back for the second, happy to see you guys again. Just to get us started, I think the biggest thing I learned from the 11 o'clock session is how passionate OHVA is. So I'm just going to get us grounded in mission and our values. So we help students reach their full potential through inspired teaching and personalized learning. We are followed by the values of PACT, to make an impact, which is passion, accountability, courage, and trustworthiness. And you'll definitely hear some of that in this conversation. So who are we? K12 is the nation's leading provider of online curriculum. We do that a variety of different ways. Online public schools, which is what OHVA is. We also have private schools, hybrid schools, and we also do direct coursework that people can do independently. We want to, I think COVID has allowed all of us to see what virtual teaching looks like, whether you're in a brick and mortar or not. We are very intentional in everything that we do, and our goal is to provide children with an education that is comparable or superior to what they could get in the nation's best public and private schools. We started in 2000. We have some people on here who have been here almost since the beginning, back when, there was dial-up. So we were new frontier. We're located right outside of DC in the Herndon, Virginia area. That's where our headquarters is. But of course, we have teachers and staff and other people all across the US. So now I will send it back over to Drea and have our teachers tell us how virtual teaching works.
Thanks, Keisha. So I want to start with middle school. So if Laura Hauser, if you'd like to tell us how virtual teaching works in regards to middle school, and then we'll follow from there, high school and special education.
Absolutely. I'll talk about middle school any day of the week. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad to get to visit with you all. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. Whoever ordered this beautiful weather, I appreciate it. So in the middle school, we teach, we have a block schedule for our kiddos. And so we teach math and ELA typically in the mornings, and we teach science and history in the afternoons. And then we have career technical or CTE programming as well in sprinkled throughout the day. So we have great opportunities to meet with our kids live every single day. So that's something that's about the best part of our days, when we get to meet with our students and work with them in our classes.
Thanks, Laura. Now we'll have our high school principal. If you could talk a little bit about the high school portion.
Absolutely. This is Andrea Zavisha. Can everyone hear me okay? Someone let me know in the chat box if you can hear me.
can hear you.
Andrea, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So my apologies for that. So I am one of the 4 high school principals, and high school has a similar setup to middle school in that we teach our students every day. We are, we start out, we have a specific time of day for students where they'll go to their science class, their English class, their math, and their social studies. And they will have that live direct instruction, whether it's whole group or when we target particular groups of our students, and that prevents overlap. So our kids are expected to attend, and of course, our teachers are planning and holding those live lessons, reaching out to teachers outside of that teaching time. And we expect, and this is a school-wide expectation for our students, or pardon me, for our teachers to be available to our students from 8 to 5 during the day. And that's pretty much a little bit of a background about our instructional expectations for our teachers at the high school.
Thank you. And Jonna, would you like to talk to us about our special education?
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. So special education in the virtual environment is not much different than the brick and mortar in the respect that we honor the students' individual education plans just as we do in the brick and mortar schools. We service our students according to their IEP and their IEP goals. As far as the educational piece for our special ed students, the special ed teachers work in conjunction with the gen ed teachers to deliver the instruction. And then the special ed teachers have their own caseload of students that they monitor their IEPs and also deliver their specially designed instruction. Our special ed students receive all of the same services that they would in a brick and mortar. So they receive related services if they are, if their deficits indicate that they need related services. So we contract with several providers and have some in-house providers of our own to make sure our students receive their related services. There are, as far as the ratios go, K-8, we make sure that there are, we maintain a ratio of 1 to 16, and then in high school it's 1 to 24. So all of our students receive all of the services that they require.
Thanks, Jonna. Also, we have Lauren Logan. If you could talk to us about our Destinations Career Program.
Sure, I'll hop on the video here, not that I'm too camera ready, but whatever, right? So my name's Lauren Logan, and I'm the Destinations Career Program and Career Readiness Education Dean at Ohio Virtual Academy. And right now we have a middle school career readiness program where we're teaching just basic career exploration skills and giving those opportunities to our students. And then we have a more pathway specific career exploration option for students that are in 9th or 10th grade. And then that helps them decide if they want to go into an actual CTE pathway for their 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years. And in the past, we've had 5 pathways, 2 in business, 3 in IT. And then for next year, we're also adding 3 health science pathways and 1 engineering and design pathway. So our pathway teachers, they have a couple of courses within each pathway, and then they assist students with their CTSO participation, as well as finding work-based learning experiences, building on those professional skills, and preparing students to take their web exams, which are our state technical skill attainment tests for our CTE programs here. So, and that's pretty much in a nutshell what we offer, and we're always looking for teachers to fill those needs.
Hey, Andrea, it's Chris Stewart. Can I interrupt for a second? Because we have something special at OHBA that I'm not sure very many, if any, of the other K-12 schools have. We've been around long enough that we have former students who are now teachers with us. So we have a K2 teacher, a middle school teacher, and next year we'll have a CTE teacher who are students with us. And one of them is with us. So Jennifer Clemens is on. So she may have an interesting perspective to share from the student and the teacher role, if you'd like for her to share as well.
Yes, Jennifer, please, if you'd like to take the mic, definitely tell us about your experience as a virtual teacher, as well
Yeah,
as a student.
absolutely. Hey, everybody. I'm Jennifer Clemens. I'm still trying to get used to my last name. I just got married in February. So if I start saying Zavatsky for some odd reason, that'll be the reason why. But yes, I had the unique opportunity of actually being a part of Ohio Virtual Academy several years ago. Actually, Laura Hauser, who is our middle school principal, was my former teacher. And it was such a unique experience. It's a lot, it's interesting going from the student perspective to the virtual teaching perspective, because especially Ohio Virtual Academy has just evolved so much, which is absolutely incredible. It used to be very much independent learning, and now we have the opportunity to really just make connections with our students through virtual connections. So that was one of the biggest questions I've always had teachers ask me, is like any sort of brick and mortar setting, how do you make those connections? And what's unique is that even though I'm behind a camera, I can still make connections with my students. We get that opportunity to see them daily face to face. They have the opportunity to use webcams. And it's just been really exciting because in those connections we grow together. We've even made connections with some of the curriculum and just to everyday life. And it's just been unique. Something with a virtual setting, especially because if there are students, I have some students that can't be in brick and mortar settings, and they're just elated to just be able to still participate in activities in class, and not have it be where they just feel so secluded. And I even include opportunities, because my biggest thing that I loved when I was in the brick and mortar setting was classroom parties. I still get to have those, and the students love it because it gives them the chance to have, like, we do talent shows. We've done where they've shown off their pets and had a pet parade, all sorts of kind of stuff. And it's neat because then the students get the opportunity to showcase what they have. So I absolutely love it. I feel like in a lot of the courses that I'm taking, actually in my master's courses that are offered through K12 as well, and through Southern New Hampshire University, they've talked about how online education is just going to become the thing. Like, even a lot of the brick and mortar settings are going to have that online education format. And to me, it's great to know that as a student, I've experienced this online education before, but now as a virtual teacher, I can say, okay, I'm already in this setup, and it's been wonderful, because even the transition with COVID, we didn't really have any hiccups that came across. We just kept continuing on. So it was really nice to have that transition. But I'm just very, very happy to be back in the setting. Loved my time as a student, and I'm absolutely loving my time as a teacher now.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I will definitely be asking you some more questions as we carry on. But we want to also just talk about the school as a whole. So, Dr. Chris, if you would like to give us our overview of OHVA, and Keisha, if you could bring up the slide.
Absolutely. So just like everyone else, 16 weeks without a haircut does not camera ready make. So I just have my my wall clean up there, and I'll talk about that in a second because it's a big part of OHVA. But you know, as Andrea and Keisha have said, we've been around 18 years. OHVA is one of the longest running K12 schools, and we are also the largest. At present, we're serving 13,000 students, and you can kind of see the stats there, so I don't want to go over all the stats. But I do want to make sure you understand that we are a student-centric school. And that's all that matters to us, is, are we serving our students, right? So that's my wall hanging that's on as my picture. You know, we believe firmly that you have to connect with your students. And until you connect with your students, you cannot be aware of their barriers. You cannot be aware of what's holding them back. You cannot be aware of what makes them soar. And then once you're aware of those situations, then and only then can we make true impact. And then when we make impact, we can provide hope. And hope at Ohio Virtual Academy means that whatever is happening right now, this second, need not define your future. It doesn't matter if you were bullied. It doesn't matter, well, it matters. I shouldn't say it that way. If you are being bullied now, it does not mean that you will be bullied as an adult. If you are finding yourself struggling now, it does not mean that you have to be defined as a student who struggles in the future. We want to make sure that we are supporting you, providing you, connecting with you, so that you can have hope for that future. And that is what matters most to us. We are not about adults, even though we work with adults. We are about students. And so that, I think, is something that you want to take away. You can see up there some of the fun facts is we have Destinations Career Program, but again, unlike most schools, we truly have a kindergarten through 12th grade initiative. I expect that our kindergarten through 5th grade students will understand that there are many options for their lives and their futures. Some of that is in career, some of it may be in college, some of it may be just something different completely that we have not thought of right now, but we'll think about in 5 years, right? Because that's the beauty of being virtual. So we have that program. We also have a strong initiative on mental health and the 7 mindsets. That's kindergarten through 12th grade. And even more importantly for our teachers, I firmly believe that every student deserves an effective instructor. Every student deserves a strong, effective teacher. So that is something that we provide and we work hard on at this school. And I'm hoping Jennifer will tell you that she found that support when she came here, because that's what we want you to know is that we believe firmly in wrapping ourselves around these students, and everybody gets involved, everyone. So I'm going to pass it on because I'll get excited and then I'll talk forever. So I'm going to give it back to you, Dre.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. Now, after we've heard an overview of OHVA, we want to explain how you can apply and join this great school. And as you can see, this family of teachers and principals and special education teachers. So I want to share that in order to apply, make sure you go to our website, which is www.k12.com/careers. Once you're on that page, you'll want to click on our 2 job boards. Click on the school staff if you're interested in school positions. And from there, you'll be able to apply. You can also create job alerts to see when we are posting for a specific state. So you could set it to Ohio if you're in Ohio, and you can see as we make our posts about jobs, they're coming soon. And we'll also have our recruiter, Chika Hale, to talk to us about the current positions that we have right now. And Chika, if you want to get on the mic.
Hi, everyone. So we do have positions available. There are 3 opportunities on the website. And what I'd like you to know is that when you apply, the process is when you're invited to complete a digital interview, there will be instructions as to how to complete your digital interview. I saw in the chat someone was asking about that. And the last question, number 8, you will be asked, is that my feedback? Sorry. I think someone needs to mute their mic. Okay, great. The last question, number 8, asks you to upload a YouTube video, because you'll be asked to teach your favorite lesson. You don't need students. It's, as if you were teaching a lesson. And that link will be uploaded in question number 8.
Thank you, Chai. And also, Keisha has also posted the link to the job board, so you can click that link to also see the jobs that we currently have posted. Please make sure to check back frequently, because again, we will be adding more and more positions as they become available. So now we've come to the portion of our webinar where everyone can participate. We'll be answering questions. And I did see quite a few people in the chat box asking, so I'm going to look there. But before, and I have some questions too, so I will answer those. But feel free to write any questions that you have right now in the chat box. We'll have those we'll tell some over the microphone. I know one person said, how many students does a teacher typically manage? And we can start there. And we can start with middle school, high school, and our destinations. How many students that you typically manage? So Laura, if you want to start that.
Sure, I am happy to. In the middle school, we have set up, we have pods, teaching pods. And so what that is we have a math teacher, an English language arts teacher, a science teacher, and a history teacher. And all those folks are a team. And so those folks share a group of kiddos. And so that's about 200 to 250 kiddos that they are serving. And so, for example, that math teacher is responsible for teaching math to all of those babies. The English teacher teaches English to all of those same kiddos. But we also have, because we're cool in the middle school, we have a pod, which is your vertical alignment, but we also have a posse, which is the co-teachers. So your posse is who you teach with. It's your content teacher. So we have 2 math folks, we have 2 ELA folks, and so we share the preparation duties, we share the instructional time with a co-teacher, a content expert. And so yes, we have a pod and a posse, and we do that solely to embarrass the students, because we like to pretend that we're cool in the middle school, and we're not. We're old. And it's wonderful to horrify the students that way. That's our favorite. So that's how we do it in middle school.
All right, and can we have our Andrea, if you'd like to talk about our high school and just that caseload there.
Absolutely. So at the high school, our teachers have approximately 200 students, and they do teach those students, it's for their particular prep, whether they're teaching American literature or Algebra 2. They manage those students. They provide live instruction. They're responsible for the grading of the assignments, reaching out to those students. Most importantly, like Dr. Stewart mentioned, creating a relationship with those students through not just their live lessons, but other forms of communication outside of the live classroom. And so I did want to clarify too, that it's not all like 200 students all at one time in a live setting. We break down how different groups of students that we work with at different times, based on what their more unique needs are, how they're progressing in the class. Some of the students who are struggling might be with you at a different time than our who maybe need a little bit of enrichment. And so that's kind of a look at the ratios, and as I mentioned, teaching at certain times in the day, and I saw in chat kind of a related question. But so you're teaching during the day, you're also reaching out to students, grading, making those connections, and obviously other tasks that come within the field of education. So hopefully that answers the questions for the high school.
Thanks, Andrea. Lauren, if you wanted to talk about as far as the classes for destinations, and then we'll follow up with John.
Sure. So with destinations, our courses fall in the afternoon, so we'll be noon or later. And usually our teachers teach about 3 or 4 days a week, and then hold help sessions throughout the remainder of the week to assist students as needed. We've just made a big shift to PBL, or project-based learning, within our Destinations Career Program. So that's something that's really new and exciting, and our teachers are certainly embracing. And it's been shown to be good for the kids. They're loving it. We've actually had students say that out of, they're graduating and they're saying, this course that I just took as PBL has been the most beneficial for me out of all my courses at OHVA. So we're super excited about PBL coming into our career readiness experience for our students, actually even as low as our middle school, where that's the curriculum that we're going to start implementing with those kids. So a little bit of a different feel, but we're excited to see, all that it does for our students.
Thanks, Lauren. And Jonna, just if you could tell us a little about the caseload for special education.
Absolutely. So like I mentioned earlier, K-8 maintains a caseload of 1 to 16 ratio. So every special education teacher maintains the IEPs and the specially designed instruction for their 16 students. And in the high school, it's a 1 to 24 ratio. So The special ed teachers participate in the classes, in the gen ed classes, as the co-teacher in the classroom, and then they have a separate caseload of students in which they manage their IEPs. So they are also, it's full inclusion. They're right in the classrooms with the gen ed teachers.
Thank you, Jana.
Andrea,
Oh,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, this is Chris again. I think someone requested up earlier and it's moving pretty quickly in the chat, but someone wanted to know if maybe Jennifer as a teacher could share what her day is like.
Yes, I was actually about to call on her right now.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Jennifer, I definitely want to hear your experience as a, just a day in the life of what that looks like. Just so you can tell our audience today.
Yes, absolutely. So this is going to just be coming from, of course, the middle school perspective. So I can't speak for, and this is just specifically for, so my background real quick, I teach 6th grade language arts. So this is going to kind of be specific for that. With the middle school especially, it's nice because we have that flexibility. We typically have, in the mornings, it's typically math and ELA are taught. So I have 2 live sessions that I teach. And again, based on the grade bands, they do stuff a little bit differently, depending on, how us as a pod decide kind of how to structure it, which is super nice that we have that flexibility. But typically, like what my day-to-day schedule is, I have sessions from 9 until 10:30, and then I'll have half of my group basically split up. I work with a co-teacher. I have an amazing lead that I work with during that. And I also have a intervention specialist that's in the classroom as well. And typically it's structured to where we start, and I'm going to kind of just go into details sort of deal. We start with the first 30 minutes just kind of doing review, quickly talking about what we discussed from previous lessons, doing the checks for understanding, and also going through just maybe some things like maybe some clarifications, all that. We jump into our lesson the next 30 minutes. So that would be focused on what the students are going to be covering, not only what they would do on the online middle school, but also what we'd be discussing. Maybe there'd be some readings, because I know my students love to read out loud in class. It's like one of their favorite things to do. And then finally, the last 30 minutes is dedicated to small groups or help type of time, working on homework. So typically when I have an intervention specialist in the room, they will go and work with their group. I work with any students that maybe have some additional questions. If there's something where I'm like, hey, maybe we need some one-on-one time, that's when we schedule stuff outside of the classroom to have those help sessions. So that's from 9 until 10:30, and then I have another session from 10:30 to 12. And here I had another intervention specialist that was in the room as well. And it's great because we've developed relationships. I'm all about like collaboration. I'm all about that. I encourage like my intervention specialists and all my, the co-teachers especially, just to, if they want to add something to it, go for it, because something I might be teaching, I might be going through something and it may not be getting across to the students at all. And then they may just say one thing that makes total sense to them. So it's great because we have a lot of collaboration in those sessions. We can really talk to one another and just co-teach. But it's great because the students are then split up. So I have to admit, when I first started, that 200 mark where you're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of students to have to teach. When you have especially the backup of co-teachers, intervention specialists that are helping you along the way, and amazing support as well, it's not as daunting. It's actually incredible to have that many students in a classroom. So that's how that's structured. And then from 12 until about 5 o'clock is dedicated to multiple things. So that could be, I could be hosting help sessions for students. I could be easily working on if there's any sort of meetings that I have for IEPs, ETRs, 504s, anything like that. It can be dedicated towards lesson planning. It can be dedicated towards if I want to make parent phone calls, maybe reach out to some students that maybe need that additional support. It's helpful because we can structure it kind of how we want to structure it. It's not like in a traditional setting where you have those certain times that you have to do certain things. So I get my teaching done in the morning, and then the rest of my time spent really just enhancing my lessons, making those connections with students and learning coaches especially, because we want to make those, because we definitely want, everybody to be working together on that. And then I also had somebody that asked a question too, real quick, if I could answer that in regards to what made me go from OHVA student to teacher. So that was a process too. I actually started out long-term subbing for quite a bit. Kind of had some, went through interviews, went through that whole entire process. And it came across at one point just randomly where I just decided, I was like, I have been a part of OHVA as a student. I'm not sure why I've like not realized in my mind, like I need to go back to this. I need to see what it's like now, because I still had that perspective of what it was like as a student. And I was like, I don't know how the teaching works in that structure. I'm going to go check it out. And went through the interview process, which was actually one of the most unique, and actually, I know it's going to sound weird to say an interview was fun, but I actually had fun with the interview versus where you're sitting in a boardroom, you know, with a bunch of other teachers just being like, okay, how are they responding? It was fun to do those video interviews. But I did through that whole entire process, and it just made me realize that I needed to get back into that community that was so supportive of us during that time, because we actually, my unique experience as a student was we used to travel for a living as a family. And so we were getting pulled out of school constantly. And I have a lot of students that are in similar situations to that, where they are on sports teams and they love the flexibility that OHVA provides. But we traveled so much that I actually got pulled into out of school. It was hard. And because of that collaboration, because of that support, I was like, I need to be back into that again. So I definitely was very excited to be a part of this community again. And honestly, it is something that I treasure so much. Like, I knew that teaching was my passion, and my passion has continued to grow because of it and because of Ohio Virtual Academy. This is definitely a team that is so supportive and so loving. So I'm glad to be back for sure.
Thanks, Jennifer, for that. And I'm happy. Thank you, Chris, for just letting us know that, you know, she started with OHVA and she moved to teaching. I've been here for 3 years now, and one of the things working in recruiting, we want to find those candidates who have, you know, gone to our school, and we always want to know, has anyone ever taught? So this makes me excited, because I think this is something that we can share as we're finding you know, candidates that want to work for us, showing that there are people that have been through or been to our schools and now they're working. So I think that really helps with the experience, and also that, you know, we have staying power, that people are, you know, continuing to stay with K12. So I will continue on with our questions, and thank you all for the chat is going. So I thank you for engaging with us as we're answering all these questions. All right. I did another question that I want to ask, if we could talk about the learning coaches, just to give a definition, just in case for those that are on, they may not know what a learning coach is, and if they can talk about the relationship. And Jennifer, if you want to talk about that, since you are teaching as well, you can do so, just giving the definition of the learning coach and that relationship.
Yeah, so a learning coach is either a parent or guardian. It can be multiple different roles depending on who can support the student. So typically the learning coach is someone that's going to help aid in the student process, because we can't physically be in their homes. It'd be kind of creepy if we were all just kind of like stuck in their home sort of deal. So the learning coach is that aid for us to be able to help us as teachers. So they're the ones that are monitoring in a lot of cases, especially with sixth graders, because they are gaining more independence. They still kind of need somebody by their side to kind of push them along, because they're still babies. Like we gotta help them through. But that learning coach is just an ally. It's somebody that's definitely going to be a resource for teachers, that if there's at any point that maybe something's happening in the classroom and we need to talk with the teacher, just to say, or the learning coach, and just say, hey, you know, we've noticed this, the so-and-so is acting differently in class today. Is everything going on? Like, what's going on? Because again, we can't physically be in there. So I typically, with building those relationships with learning coaches, it starts with communication. It's like with any relationship sort of deal. So I treat it as if, like, you know, in the dating process, where you have to have that communication, you have to be talking to them constantly. I typically will go through grade updates, you know, send out those emails of like, yay, you're doing great, or hey, like you're missing these assignments. And it, with those emails, they're typically sent out not only to the students, but also to the learning coaches as well. So they're seeing all that. If there's at any point that I'm seeing like a student maybe is not participating, or somebody that may just be not coming to class sort of deal, you know, you'd make those connections with the learning coaches, because they want to see that you're advocates for their children. And if you're reaching out to them, they're definitely going to be, like, okay, like, in most cases they're going to be like, yeah, I definitely want to help out because it's their child. They want to have their child succeed. So that learning coach is just going to be either a parent, a guardian. I have sometimes where it's like tutors that come in and help their students. That could be that role as well, but it's just great to have. It's a very much, I would just say, an advocate for the student and somebody that's here to help guide the student through following through the curriculum. But definitely keep those communications up. It's definitely, learning coaches are definitely useful.
Thanks, Jennifer. I did see, Dr. Chris, if you could speak to the time frame regarding hiring and the OHVA process.
I can. Andrea said she could speak to the learning coach. You want to do that real fast since that's the topic we're on, and then I'll take it right after Andrea.
Oh, sure.
Go for it, Andrea.
Sure thing. So at the high school, obviously we want to foster independence in our students. Freshmen, obviously they need a little help, a little guidance getting acclimated to the high school, and things like graduation requirements and expectations of, just the day-to-day differences, just as any student in a brick and mortar transitioning from middle school to high school would need. But as students progress through school, we want them to take more ownership of their learning, not to say that the learning coaches aren't involved, but we do communicate more directly than maybe a first grade teacher would with their 6-year-old student, would work a little more closely with the learning coach when it came to meeting expectations and whatnot. But that learning coach is really key for our students, because even though they're getting older and we want them to take ownership, we do have, 15-year-old boy probably would rather play Xbox than do his algebra homework. So we do, fully engage, and anything that we send to a student is copied to the learning coach so they know what type of communication we're having with their students and expectations and things like that. So it is a little bit different, but that learning coach is still just as important part of the wraparound services we have. And of course at high school we have guidance counselors, and we do have that throughout the other grade levels as well. But so they're still an important part of navigating. It just looks a little different in daily practice. So thanks for letting me share that real quick.
Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, I can. So first, what I hope you're hearing is that this is not, we are a unique school and we like being unique. So we're not trying to take a brick and mortar school and fit it into the virtual world. That's not what we're doing. What we're trying to do is enhance what we have as a virtual school and meet the needs of the students. So that looks different in every department. It looks different within the departments even. As Jennifer said, each pod has some decision making on what needs to do. As long as we're serving students, we're pretty open to that. So the LCs are the same, right? The learning coaches are the same. Some are so involved, so involved, and some are there to support and have us help support them, support their students. So even that is a little different. So anyway, so timeline here, this is such a different year. This is our 18th year. This is my 18th year here. And I have a pretty good idea historically of what happens. This year, I don't have that historical reference. It's just a different year for all of us, right? So we do know that we always are in need of intervention specialists. John is always looking for, good team members to join special ed. So we'll be hiring those now and soon. And then there are specific hard to find CTE positions that Lauren is always looking for as well. The others, we are looking for numbers. We will hire. We don't like being caught off guard. We don't like our students to be sitting around waiting for a qualified teacher. We like to know things are in order for them. So we will start in a couple of weeks here interviewing, making sure that we have a list of candidates that we feel would be good on our team. And then we will start hiring probably more towards the middle to end of July. Feel free to reach out to the principals that you interview with and say, hey, do we have any ideas? Do we know? Because I know that there's a timeline that goes on with districts as well. But what we don't do and what we won't do is overhire, because that's not good for anyone. But we do know that there will be specific hiring. We cannot guess if we'll have more students come in K2 or high school. The last few years, we've had more coming into high school. Everyone does need to be certified. They need to be certified in the the position that they're teaching. We only hire highly qualified teachers. So, you know, you can work that out with ODE, you can work it out with your principals as you go through, but there are ways of finding that out. But, you know, we will begin interviewing and hiring in the next couple of weeks, or hiring special ed and CTE in the next couple of weeks. We'll begin hiring, interviewing to prepare a list of qualified candidates in the next couple of weeks, but we probably won't be hiring the gen ed, as we call them, population until probably right around July, middle to end of July. Hope that helps, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris. All right, and we'll continue with our questions.
It looks like most of the ones have been answered in the chat. Might be time for you to ask one of yours.
Sure. Okay, and I'll ask this to Jennifer. What advice would you give to potential K12 employees or those that are interested in joining? What advice would you give them?
Definitely reach out of your comfort zone. So this was a position that when I first applied, with the virtual teaching session or like selection, it's not anything new, but it's still very foreign to a lot of people. They don't have sometimes the full understanding of what we do exactly. And I know when I first went into it, I had some friends of mine that were like, okay, like, what is this all about? Like, I'm just curious to know. So definitely you're already going out of your comfort zone by being here. You're going through the process of learning, you know, what OHVA is all about. So definitely just take the leap, go for it. It is something that I feel as a teacher, like all of the things that I've learned in the virtual teaching session or just being a virtual teacher, I can apply to just everyday life. Like I'm learning so much more with technology to really just enhance. So step out of your comfort zone. So when you do become a part of the OHVA family, look for resources that are going to really help students, that are going to help to stay that engagement. So step out of that. You know, maybe something is, you know, technology may not be your best friend. It's never my best friend to begin with, but maybe try out that new piece of technology that maybe you're like, yeah, I want to try this. Like I did this year. If you all are familiar with Flipgrid at all, it's like a video discussion format that I had the students do this year. And I was so nervous about it because knowing with middle schoolers, sometimes they can get on camera and do crazy things. It happens. But they really took that perspective and just were really able to grow and just have discussions with each other. And it was awesome. So I stepped out of my comfort zone with that. So definitely my piece of advice, step out of your comfort zone, try things that you may not, you know, you may just want to get some experience in, because it's going to definitely enhance not only you as a teacher, but it's going to enhance your connections with the students as well.
Dre, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just talking away. I had someone ask, what does the school calendar look like? Dr. Chris, if you wanted to talk about that, or
I can. And Andrea, I always tell people I was on mute and I said the most brilliant things. And now I can't repeat them because I don't remember them, right? So as far as the school calendar, we have the regular 180-day calendar. And so ours, I think this year, I never remember because it's been 18 years, but I think we start around August 24th and end right around the end of May. So you see that. As far as the holiday schedule, it is the normal type holiday schedule. May not be exactly the same, but I don't know if any traditional has the same kind of calendar anymore. We take the regular holidays, we'll take a winter break and a spring break. We do also have sick leave and personal day as well. As far as the base pay, that will be discussed with CHI when we have that. We need you to know that there are lots of benefits to being in a virtual school. So, you know, we are not going to have a step pay ladder, and you'll have that discussion with CHI. As far as also making sure that we have PD, we have reimbursements for your tuition for any kind of things that you need to do. We do not hire part-time at this time. Lauren and I are in discussions about that because with our health pathways, we may need to, for the first time in 18 years, hire someone that's part-time, but we haven't gotten that worked out with the board. Employees are board employees. They are not K12 employees. They are board employees. So, that all has to be discussed with the board. So I think I answered the questions.
Yes, you did. I did wanted to ask some of our reps for the different schools. Just want to know how everyone connects with students in person and virtually. And Laura, Andrea, Lauren, you want to chime in?
So this is Andrea. I can jump in. That is a great question because if you were to ask our teachers, how can you have relationships with students when you don't see them every day? And I hear all the time, even when I talk to my new teachers, at the end of the year, I talk to my new teachers and reflect on how they felt their first year went. And they always say that they're amazed that they feel that they can connect more closely with their students and really get to know them. If you think about it, if you're in a classroom with 25 students, it's hard to give any one of them at a time your full attention because obvious reasons. So a lot of times when we're working with our students, when we're talking with them, just like you would in a classroom, but you're talking with them through an email, through a phone call, however it may be, you're having in that moment that contact with just that student and you can really get to know them. Even though we're virtual and we can't see their faces, when we're in class, the classes are really interactive. So you still, pick up on their interests as they're talking in the chat or on the microphone, and you can, capitalize on that. So-and-so, Jimmy has been really unengaged, but he mentioned that he loves to skateboard. How can I kind of hook him, when I call him later today and somehow pull that into our conversation? So, and in that moment, you'd have that conversation with just him. And we have other, obviously not right now, they've been suspended, but we do have face-to-face opportunities all over the state, some set up by administration, some set up by teachers to get to see kids face-to-face. Of course, they wouldn't always be just your students, but there are opportunities like that. We have online clubs where we can get to know our students, a little bit outside of that academic avenue as well. So at the high school, and I know a lot of the things I said are true across the board, there are a lot of opportunities to really get to know your kids. And it's just like in the brick and mortar, you listen, you hear them talk about their interests, you get to know personal, things about them that they share with you about their family or why they came to the school. Our teachers will ask kids outright, share why you're here. And they do, and the kids need that interaction too, just like we need that with them. They want that connection from you as well. So, as a teacher, if you create the environment that you care about them and that you want to offer them that hope, because kids come to us for a reason. You don't leave your local district because it's Tuesday and you're bored and you want to do something different. There's a reason that the kids come to us. And to make that connection based on that is really where it all starts. Sorry, I feel like it was a little long-winded, but I hope that it helped.
No, you're fine.
I'll speak
Lauren,
to,
Laura.
Yeah, I'll speak to middle school, and I'll just give an anecdotal example from a meeting that I was in today. This morning, we had a meeting, and Marie Mueller, Marie, are you in here too? Our ninth grade principal. We have a couple of kiddos in the middle school who are going to be moving to high school next year. And we had a meeting with the 8th grade team, the special education teachers that are involved with these babies, and the 9th grade team that's going to be getting them. And so we know so much about this family. Now they have had a lot of trauma. This is not an excellent situation. However, the volume of teachers and administrators and people that were on that meeting today talking about that family, all of the wraparound services that we've provided for them, we wanted to make sure that we are handing off a complete package of information about these babies So they are served at the high school next year. And so it was really, you know, like I said, it's a difficult situation with that family, but the ability to connect vertically with our team in the high school really is a wonderful thing that we can share out about this family and be a soft place to land for them next year as they're recovering from the trauma that has happened to them outside of school this year. So it really is a very, very good opportunity for people to know their kids and know their families. And so just an example from today.
Andrea, I'm going to piggyback on something Laura said. You probably have heard, because I heard it from Andrea, I heard it from Laura, and you know, if you were on the last session, you heard it from people there too, wraparound services. We believe so firmly here that we have to have a variety of adults working with these kids, right? We have, you know, not only ELA teachers, math teachers, history teachers, we have counselors, we have advisors, we call them advocates. We have, you know, the ISs. We have so many people that what we firmly believe is that if everybody is putting that effort into connecting with these kids, those kids are going to connect with someone, right? They may not like me, but they may fall in love with Andrea and what she has to say, because she may connect differently. Right? So we feel firmly, and I'm going to say this because I believe it from the bottom of my heart. This is not a place to come because we think the job is easier. This is only a place to come if you want to serve students, because that's our whole goal is what can we do to serve them? We want to make sure that we are doing everything in our power. I am amazed as the head of school. Absolutely blown away. I have never picked up the phone to call a teacher, a counselor, or anyone else and said, can you tell me about Susie? And not have the teacher immediately tell me everything about that child. They didn't have to look it up. They didn't have to go to their notes. They didn't have to say, can I get back with you? They know everything because they're doing everything they can to connect. And we connect in so many ways, not only just like with the camera, as you're seeing, not only with video, text, email, Facebook, everything you can imagine, but we truly work hard to listen and become part of their lives. So.
Thanks, Dr. Chris. Lauren or Jonna, if you wanted to also answer as well, you can.
I'll hop on real quick just to add that, you know, with CTE, especially our pathway students, our teachers have the opportunity to work a little bit closer with kids within those content areas that they're really passionate about. So that's pretty fun for our teachers to experience. You know, some of them specifically, it's neat, like the game design teacher, when I'm in her room watching her teach, she knows every video game that these kids are playing. I mean, they're rattling off games as examples, and she's just right there with them talking about it. And it's just so inspiring to watch, you know, that connection that she has with those students. You know, that's just one example, but working regularly with those students in those specific areas that they're passionate about just really helps them build those connections.
Sure, and I'll jump in here for just a moment. Our special education students, of course, it is equally and vitally important for us to have those relationships with those kiddos. And so our teachers are often in touch with like the related services providers. You know, they talk to the occupational therapist or the speech therapist or the behavior therapist to kind of give, like Dr. Stewart and everybody else said, that wraparound support for that student, because they want to know not only how they're doing in the classroom academically, but how they're doing with their related services as they all tie in together. So it's not that unlikely to have even one of the related service providers to contact one of us, you know, one of the SPED administrators to say, okay, you know, this teacher is doing really, really well with this student. I hope that we can all stay together working as a team together with this family as they move along to middle school or high school. So we have all those conversations. And so we just want to make sure that the kids are, or in the families and then the parents, you know, are tapped in. And of course, the parents are such a vital, important part of that IEP team. So the teachers are definitely getting to know those families. And like Andrea said too, not only in the classrooms, but when they have those one-to-one sessions or the small group sessions, the teachers have a really good pulse on if kids are usually engaged or usually talking or usually interacting with other students in the class or with the teachers. And then when they're not, they have a really good idea to make sure that they check on those kiddos later on that day, or, you know, shoot them a text or send them an email to make sure that they're checking on them. So again, you'd be really surprised on the relationships that are built virtually.
Can I piggyback just a second a little bit for middle school again? We do, and I think it's a standard across the board, we do TBTs every week. In middle school, we do teacher-based data team meetings every single week. But a piece to that puzzle of the TBT time, the data analytics time, we actually spend talking about the non-academic side of things. And we kind of laugh a little bit about it. It's like going to church, you know, you sit there and you gossip about people. But we're not, you know, we're talking about the pieces of the puzzle to the kids. TBT is a teacher-based team. It's an Ohio thing, where we look at weekly achievement data, academic data for the kids, and determine, you know, what they know, what they're still trying to do. And we're meeting as a grade level content team. So we're at a similar spot in the curriculum. But during that teacher-based team time, not only are we discussing the academics, but we're also discussing the outside of school issues possibly that could be going on with a kid. So, you know, a math teacher can say, hey, you know, I didn't see so-and-so in class today. Were they in your English class? No, they weren't in science today either. All right, who's calling? You know, and we make sure, you know, okay, whose Nana is sick? Whose dad just got laid off? Who's got, you know, stuff going on in their lives? Because we want to focus on the whole kiddo, the whole child. And we want to make sure that if there is a non-academic barrier, or if they've got some craziness going on at home, we want to be able to address that as well and be supportive, because then we feel like if those issues are taken care of and we support them and they know that it matters to us, if they have things going on outside of school, we want to make sure that those issues are dealt with as well, so we can be supportive, and then we can also talk content with them. But we just want to make sure that the kids, you know, that if there's something going on, that we all know about it, so we can all be supportive and serve that kiddo and serve the family. And, you know, if there are students in other grade bands in the same family, we want to make sure that, you know, we would reach out to the other grade levels and say, hey, you know, this is what we know about our kid. Are you seeing this? Da, 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 da. So just to jump in again.
Thank you, Laura, for sharing that. And I want to thank all of our representatives today, especially Dr. Chris. Just thank you to our representatives for OHVA for coming and sharing with us today, telling us more about the middle school and high school, our destinations program. Thank you all to everyone who attended. I hope you all got something out of this and we were able to, you know, answer some questions for you. I've had the chance to travel to Ohio to meet some of these people, and I tell you, this school is a well-oiled machine, and they are indeed a family. And so I'm glad that I was able to just see you all again. I know it's virtually, but to be able to share all about OHVA. And I hope that those that have joined today, if you are interested in applying, please apply. And we have put that link in the chat box again on how you can join our job board. But I just want to thank everybody for attending today. This has been recorded, so once we get the recording, we will share that out to those that have registered today. But again, thank you for joining. Please follow us on at K12 Careers. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter if you'd like to see more events like this and to stay connected to us. But again, I want to thank everyone for attending and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Keisha. Thanks, Chai. Thanks, Carol. We'll talk to you soon.